My next guest is the CEO of the New Jersey Tech Council. How you doing, Aaron Price?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So my understanding is, in the tech world, you all were already used to working from home, weren't you?
I think we were. I think a lot of the tech community was ahead of the curve, early adopters, and I think we were ready for Zoom and the rest of this in a way that a lot of other industries weren't.
Yeah, and how do you think the tech community is faring in this environment? Are they going to do better, worse? Is it creating some sort of opportunities for them?
I think that there is opportunity. I also think there are quite a few companies that are struggling dramatically. I think I saw a stat that early stage funding is down something like 70+%. That's a problem. Many are going through layoffs. So I think those that are in the industries, we've seen some of our own community in the Tech Council thrive because they're in the telehealth space, so they've shifted to respond to the pandemic. But others that were more in the nice to have category, I think many are laying people off and really, really struggling, unfortunately.
Yeah, and what was interesting is after the Great Recession was kind of the golden age of startup tech. Do you think that hopefully we'll see, a new era where there are more startups, where people are taking that entrepreneurial plunge and trying their luck?
I absolutely do. I think in every area of adversity, you see entrepreneurs find opportunity, and this pandemic is no different. There are smart people whose companies are going through tough times who may have just furloughed them or laid them off. And I think a lot of those people are thinking about what opportunity can they create for themselves? What kind of a business can they create? I'll make a prediction here. I think what we're doing right now is in its infancy. The Zoom and the way that people get together digitally, I think is going to dramatically change over the next 12 to 24 months. And you'll see a lot of innovation, a lot of entrepreneurship there. But a lot of categories are going to be disrupted. I think people are thinking about how the world is going to be different in whatever the new normal is. And there will certainly be opportunity for technology to play a huge role.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Some people think that this is the very tip of the iceberg for remote working, remote learning, et cetera. And obviously tech is a part of that revolution. How do you feel like there'll be new business opportunities, new competition in this space? I mean, we're all on Zoom right now. Is someone else going to come up with a good alternative, et cetera, et cetera?
I absolutely do. So again, right, being early adopters, we already have companies in tech that are all about like a remote year and other ways to be productive remotely. I think tech to me is not necessarily about software and hardcore technology. I think it's the way in which many of us see the world and how we think we can address some of the problems of society and the kind of life that many of us would like to lead. And so, I'm an entrepreneur. I have been my entire life. I'm not someone who can code, but I do relate to the tech community in a huge way. Obviously, I think because of the cultural, similarities. And so, I think that we'll see quite a bit of opportunity and change in the future of work. Being the CEO of the New Jersey Tech Council, I think about, in our proximity to New York City, as a lot of these companies think about alternatives to the workplace, New Jersey's well positioned to take in a lot of that workforce, to have a real estate that's a bit more spread out. We have quite a bit of real estate in general, and office commercial space in general. And so I think there's an opportunity for both geographically for states near some of the more densely populated areas to redefine themselves as places for this. And I think you'll see quite a few large corporations move towards a more nimble, flexible, remote work environment.
Tell me what it's like to be a tech entrepreneur. Is it something you would recommend?
If you like a lot of pain, I would recommend it, but not because it's a lot of fun. I love the lifestyle. I love the idea of taking problems that most people think are solved, or coming up with solutions is a better way to say this, and that people don't think are possible, and making them possible. And so one of the things, the mantra of the Propellify Innovation Festival, which is an event that we run as a council that brings together 8,000 entrepreneurs and innovators for a celebratory day to empower the community. The mantra is, we find a way through where there isn't. And it's the idea that no matter what comes our way, we figure out a solution to that issue. And that was really, that's based on my own entrepreneurial experience. I started one of the first online food ordering companies, like a Seamless, back in college when, this might be before your time, but flip phones, and we were faxing in orders, and customer service on a pager was a different world. And most people thought there's no way. Literally, restaurants would say to us, the number one issue was, or concern was, who's ever going to want to order food online? Obviously, the world's changed pretty dramatically. So I love that kind of challenge. But people often talk about in entrepreneurship, there's some kind of a high, right? You hire someone, you get a big client, there's a capital raise, and then there's a spike, and then you're down here with the trough of sorrow, and you're going for some other spike, and then you live in the trough of sorrow. You're just trying to stay alive as an organization. So it's a bit torturesome, and it plays a toll on your family. I would recommend it because I think it's thrilling, but it's not for the weak-hearted.
Yeah, you know what's funny about entrepreneurial stories, which I've interviewed thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs, is some call it the drunken walk of entrepreneurship, some call it the trough of sorrow. It's quite a wild ride, but it is rewarding, isn't it?
So it can be, right? I do think there's an over celebritization of massive fundraisers and massive exits, and like all these people basically getting rich, or the cultural perception that a lot of people are just getting rich in the technology startup community. The reality is it is a lot of fun. It is thrilling. It's also very, very challenging. It can be very isolating. The reason, my brief background here is I had several companies like the one I just mentioned, Deliver You, in 98, 99. I found it to be a very isolating career choice. And so I live in Hoboken. I moved to Hoboken. I was getting involved in the New York City tech community, which was very, very early at the time in 2008 and 9 and 10. I thought there must be some group of entrepreneurs on my side of the river. Let's see if I can get a few together just to share what we're going through and help one another. So I started the New Jersey Tech Meetup, and that took on a life of its own, and it is still the largest community of entrepreneurs in New Jersey. And so that idea of isolation and challenge in entrepreneurship is very, very real. That fortunately it grew into this large experience that inspired this Propelify Innovation Festival, which was acquired last year by the council. I've had from the outside looking in, it's been a great story. The reality is it's played a huge toll on me personally, a huge toll on my family. There's not a lot I would change. There are some things I would change, but behind the scenes are a very challenging story that, some people it's not for everyone. People, I do believe, need to go into entrepreneurship with their eyes wide open and understand the very real challenges it will pose on them individually and the people around them.
Well, thank you for that sobering reality check. We'd love to have more of your entrepreneurs on our show, so send them on over. Aaron Price, CEO of the New Jersey Tech Council, with the proper title in your Zoom. You can tell you're a techie. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.